I want a sandwich. Now. Oh, sandwich wench. Yo, wench. Sandwich. Now. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. Sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. Sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. Oh, sandwich wench. I want a sandwich. Sandwich.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another political recap stream here on the Moisky Live channel. Joining me to talk about some things, one fairly obvious thing, is Trups. Say hi, Trups.
Hello, Trups.
That was glorious.
Mm.
How is
Thank you.
Trups?
Oh, you know, battling traffic to get home on time.
Oh, very
It's
sorry about
it's a
that.
work Friday, so this time I actually had to, beat the clock.
I kind of get that. I've been now a guy who gives me cleaning work. He's gone on holiday for a week, so I'm covering him all week. From now, I'll be doing all weekend and next week as well. I mean, money's money. That's fine. It's just 2 extra days essentially, and Saturday. So 3. But it's still that thing of I've got work to do when I get back, and it's a lot of it's very time sensitive.
Right, and always trying to beat the clock is
Yeah.
a great way to get the blood pumping.
It is not when you have an incredibly windy day and the wind is perpetually in your face, no matter which direction you turn.
Oh, I love that. We call those hurricanes.
Yeah, I call it the sodding wind that only blows when I'm wearing a hat. I was wearing a hat today because the thing at the front of the hat sort of keeps the rain off my face. Yeah. Whatever. Okay. So where am I going to start? Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with UK politics.
Oh boy.
Well, I've got a couple of things. I've just got to pull them up first if they load. I've had internet issues all week. Now I've worked out there's definitely something wrong with my computer. So I've got some problems to deal with. We'll go with the Labour Party because this is quite interesting. A number of Labour politicians have been removed from Labour's ballot going into the general election. Now, as we know, Jeremy Corbyn, he had his whip removed. He was expelled from the Labour Party for being an anti-Semite, which isn't entirely true. I'm going to say he's not. I don't believe he's an anti-Semite in the slightest. I think he's willing to talk to those that are a bit more extremist of the Islamic not so good side of Islam anyway, because it's the religion of peace, everyone. And that willingness makes him look like an anti-Semite, but because he's a devout pacifist, he looks like somebody who's sympathizing. Now, the reason I mentioned him is because he was trending during the week. He was trending because he was standing up for Diane Abbott. Now, I've spoken of Diane Abbott on this channel. Diane Abbott is a mathematical moron. She believed to train 10,000 police officers, you'd only need, I think it was £300,000. That couldn't be further from the truth. If you put an extra 0 on that, you might get a little bit closer, but you're still fairly far away.
Diane Abbott wasn't the one that had beef with Carl Benjamin Sargon, right?
That was that was Jess Phillips.
Oh, sorry.
We'll get to her soon, don't worry. In the case of Diane Abbott, she has had her... she's been blocked from sitting as a Labour candidate. Now, she had the whip restored to her because she made an anti-Semitism apology. So that's one person gone. There was another politician who was removed because they. Oh, what was her? I can't remember her name. Labour MP blocked. I'll find her. You got Diane Abbott. Who was the other one? There's another lady. Here it is. Faiza Shaheen. Faiza Shaheen. She liked a bunch of tweets that were kind of baity in certain directions. Yeah.
Yep.
She what was it? She liked a series of posts on Twitter that downplayed anti-Semitism accusations, including a video from Jewish comedian Jon Stewart. So, was she downplaying anti-Semitism when he was making the jokes? Doesn't matter. Yeah, I've got it up as well, Penguin. I got the timing wrong. But yeah, there's another MP who has been blocked from standing. That's 2. I think there's a 3rd as well, but they're kind of even more irrelevant. Now, many on Twitter have taken the side that Faiza deserved to be yeeted cause, and then insert their own confirmation bias. I think this is a worry, a concern, because it makes Keir Starmer look like he is looking only to maintain the integrity of his own version of an echo chamber. Yeah, and that's worrying. But he's still going to win. Sorry, but he is going to win regardless. Diane Abbott is an interesting one because she's been an MP for such a long time, guaranteed safe seat with Labour. But we don't know if it's a guaranteed safe seat if she stands as an independent. Now, I mention independent because Jeremy Corbyn has on his Twitter updated it to say independent candidate for Islington North. Jeremy Corbyn's been Islington North's MP for 30 plus years. It's one of the longest serving. It would be sensible to believe that he could still hold enough political sway to hold that seat. But I also believe there's a chance here he won't keep his seat, which would suck for him. But then he can just retire, I guess, at that point, be an activist full time. But Labour, there is dangerous territory to take guaranteed safe seats, replace them with someone else who may not win. They've got some new candidates to play with after all, like Natalie Elphicke. They need to put her somewhere, I guess. But there's more to this. So we have discussed Israel, Hamas, Palestine. Okay. Now I've seen a lot of people posting something to do with a play. Oh, I got a yawn. Oh, really? Sorry, it was the most inopportune moment. I talk a lot and don't breathe enough to match it.
I talk and I don't breathe.
Yes, I just breathe out a lot, and then yawning is a lack of oxygen. So, yeah, forcing me to. In this, so Palestine, there's been a lot of Rafah related.
Yes, I have seen a bunch of.
I've not seen the picture that people have been talking about. I've not noticed it because again, I've had issues all week, and so it's been a bit of a problem. But there's been a lot of outcry because Netanyahu had said it was an accident. A tragic accident or something. And Angela Rayner, the current deputy leader of the Labour Party, was sat in a meeting with majority Muslim men. And I mean, it looked like a scene from Blacked, straight up. And she sat there and begged them not to oust her, so not to cost her job. And as a sweetener of the part, she vowed to recognise the state of Palestine after election. The thing is, no one's denying the validity of the state of Palestine. Now, I've had many question over the years Israel, certainly the capital city of it, which for the longest time people thought was Tel Aviv. They were wrong. But this one, Palestine, I don't think, is anyone actually denying that Palestine even exists?
Some people are, because the British mandate that helped establish it.
Yes.
They don't look at it as a country. Let's put it that way. They considered it like a territory.
Well, isn't it? Because
it's semantics, really.
Yeah, it sounds like it, to be honest. Okay, so I'm gonna, as far as I'm concerned, recognizing the state of Palestine seems a bit redundant because, as far as I was aware, we here do already recognize it as a state, right? I think that's how I've always viewed it. When it comes to Gaza, it's a bit trickier. We've had people who came from Gaza who left Gaza because of what happened within years, mere months, in fact, when Hamas installed itself and then forced people to vote for them to make it look democratic. Like, they had a chance to become Hong Kong 2.0 and they blew it. And that's their fault, not ours. But then how this has all unfolded and gotten worse and worse. It's interesting because now it's gotten to a stage where I saw President Xi Jinping trending on Twitter as well. Why was he trending? Because he's calling for a peace summit. He's calling for peace in the area. He's calling for this to end. I'm like,
interesting,
bitch, if you actually
I wonder what he's getting out of it.
Yeah, exactly. What do you want? Do you want their Iron Dome? Do you want some chlorine? Keep your own people in. Perhaps an education system that stops your people eating bats.
Oh, how about a new system for their buildings so that they don't crumble in 5 years?
That sounds very fascist. I'm fascinated by people who build houses that last so well, have such a short lifespan. That's
if you keep putting in like 60% sand, you'll notice concrete starts to crumble.
You know what you should do? You should live in your sodding car at that point. Has longer life expectancy and probably has more space too.
True.
Okay, so yes, basically Angela Rayner, the deputy Chav leader, she's also had another thing this week where she's been found not guilty of any kind of wrongdoing concerning her second home or the sale of it. I didn't really care because of a tax thing, and I didn't care about it in the slightest. People in the Conservatives and others were trying to use it as a point against her. I get second homes. I understand the arguments about politicians having them. My view is, as long as the taxpayer's not paying for it, I don't give a feck, because it's not my business to care. That's your home, your private business. Politicians, yes, you serve the public, but every politician has something that's theirs. They're the public servants, yes, but they also have a life. They don't all do insider trading. They're not Democrats. And Labour are very, at this point, I'm not entirely sure what they are, because they seem to sit in a position of, a few of them are fairly conservative, and then you have some that were very arguably considered woke, certainly under the time of Corbyn, but many of those are so far at the back, with the back benches, they're licking the windows in the bus. Like, they're completely, what's that name? What was the name of that really silly far left idiot? You know, it doesn't matter. This is going to be very interesting to see whether Angela Rayner can push this message home, right? Because the argument about the humanitarian disaster in Gaza, right? People are willing to ignore the fact that Israel has never possessed what we call chill, right?
No,
they've never had it. I'm sorry. If you think they have, I'm sorry, you are removed from reality.
No.
October the 7th, Hamas committed a terrorist attack. Israel, since then, have punished them, and they've punished everyone. I don't agree with that level of punishment. Of course I don't. But it's hard. You cannot deny this is a massive cultural difference between us and those over there. And many support Israel, many support Gaza or Palestine. Not many are supporting Hamas, but those that are calling out Israel aren't condemning Hamas. That's what I find very interesting. I wanted to start with this because it's very interesting that in the week of UK politics, it's mostly been this discussion about our politics. I should probably now mention Jess Phillips because I did put a tweet in our server. Carl Benjamin, aka Sargon of Kakad, he had tweeted a very long tweet because Jess Phillips wrote a letter to the Prime Minister about the conduct of one of his members of Parliament, ex-PM Liz Truss. I might be able to put this on stream. Will screen capture work? Yes, it does. Here it is. Here is the letter. I'll open a new tab. There we go. Right. This is it. Oh, it's not even zooming in. All right, let's do it this way. Bosh. Today, former Prime Minister Liz Truss, a Conservative candidate in the upcoming general election, will be interviewed on the far-right platform Lotus Eaters, founded by Carl Benjamin, an extreme far-right commentator. Now, I don't want to defend Sargon too much. Firstly, Lotus Eaters is not far-right. Sargon does identify as a conservative now. I believe it's in fact in his tweet. It's mentioned in this rather long Twitter thread. Yeah, it's somewhere in here. He does identify as a bit more of a conservative now. And I think it's because the Overton window shifted and he's just become conservative.
Right.
And that makes sense, because as we get older, we do generally become more conservative as time goes by, because we can't keep up with societal progress, and we like to, I don't know, we like some things that are considered conservative in the sense of like tradition. He's not far right though, and Lotus Eaters is not either. He's definitely not extreme far right commentator. He's just Sargon, man. He's just a pain.
He's just that guy.
Him getting an interview with Liz Truss doesn't make her what you would consider haram. It doesn't make him that either. It means he's getting someone who was once a prime minister for 47 days onto his show to talk about politics. Believe it or not, Liz Truss, while a complete mongoloid as a prime minister, isn't totally moronic. And getting people like her on the show is good for her and good for them. And I'll be honest, Jess, I would love to see you sit down and have a conversation with Sargon of Akkad. I think it'd be a great conversation. Don't forget here, she has sat down with Jacob Rees-Mogg. Mogg is like the most posh, pretentious, he's just ridiculous. But they sat down and had a conversation, Jacob and Jess. And it was fascinating to see her speaking like a Brummy chav and him speaking like somebody who was clearly better. And I found that fascinating. She writes here, the part here, where is it? Despicable violence against women. I highest the volume of threats received by female MPs, including myself. Benjamin responded, I wouldn't even RAPEU. You do realise that means he wouldn't. He even points out by saying...
But they even brought it up, though. I remember when all this shit went down.
Man, the news.
I want to point out that I actually bought the Dirty Dirty Smear Merchant shirt.
Oh, I wished I bought that. I
also have the meme jihad flag.
I wanted that. That's what I wanted to get. Because that was...
I can send it to you.
Nah, it's all good. I wouldn't know where to put it now. I haven't got any space.
In the cabin.
Oh, God.
It's a full-size flag, too.
I've still got the Kekistan one under my bed. It's just folded up underneath my bed somewhere. I think the cats sleep on it when they go under there. Anyway, he did say here, there's been an awful lot of talk about whether I would or wouldn't RAPE Jess Phillips. I suppose with enough pressure I might cave, but let's be honest, nobody's got that much beer. Now, I would say, don't go for beer. If you really want to set yourself a goal, you go to whiskey. No, delightful single malt.
But if you want to completely ruin all sense that one has, you go for tequila.
Oh, fuck, man.
Unless
tequila.
you're Hispanic.
Tequila's that's brutal. I might say in my sense, the one that kills me for some reason is always Sambuca, because I just love it. It tastes great. You just do so many shots and just you're done. But yeah, no, it goes. This letter written to the Prime Minister chastising Liz Truss for going on Sargon of Akkad's Lotus Eaters channel. His misogynistic views because he promoted the Great Replacement theory. Thing is, he's
really
not wrong. We
point.
saw the council elections. How many cities and towns voted for mayors who were not born in this country? Now, my view generally should be similar to many others, where certainly when it comes to office, high office, I think you have to hold a certain amount you have to have been here for a certain amount of time at least, or have a citizenship here. Many of those that got voted in did not. And I think that's a dangerous precedent. I will, for those who are interested, I'll link that in the YouTube chat, Sargon's rather lengthy response, because I think it's quite interesting.
I love this Moski Live background you got going on.
Oh, wrong one. Fucking grumble. There it is. I had it in the wrong place, okay?
No, man, I'm just jiving.
It's all good, it's all good. No, it's because I have been in order, and I normally have Moski Live further up, and I clicked on where it should be, and it's research stream one. Sorry. I boomered. Yeah, and chaos in the chat, lagers for pussies.
Lager is a casual sipping drink, much like whiskey, but not with nearly the same amount of class.
Obviously, chaos. All the chocolate, if only. I don't have any to hand, I'm afraid. I have dog treats and a £10 note. I'm gonna snort the dog treats later with it. No, I'm not gonna do that. Is there anything else in the UK? Oh yeah, okay. There's one other thing. I have to talk about it. When you turn 18 in your country, what can you do? Or what must you do?
Well, you must sign up for the draft.
Thank you. That's the one. Thank you. You got it right first time. I'm so happy.
Well, you said must, and I'm like, well, as a man in this country, I know damn well what you must do at 18.
The Conservative Party have revealed a plan that when you turn 18, you must serve in the military for 12 months or give up weekends to carry out civil duties. Mandatory service, compulsory national service for all 18-year-olds, and that's just after you finish what we would call college. So age 11 to 16 is secondary school. You have 2 years afterwards where now you have to be in college for A-levels. After that, you do your mandatory service, and then after that, if you like, unless you're going straight to university, of course, then you do your weekend service. You go straight into military. Now, you spend you'd be a year full-time armed forces role or volunteering with organisations such as the police or the NHS and the police. You could be doing call centre work, or you could be doing police community support officer with the NHS. You could be the guy changing everyone. And I don't care. Now, this one cracked me up to no end because Meg is secretly a dog. Well, you have been sending a lot of dog treats and cat treats, and you haven't been sending Meg any treats, Penguin. And I'm very disappointed. I'm very grateful for the dogs and cats treats, but where's the Meg treats? Do you have time to give them treats? Why are you trying to make me thin? How dare you? Although I'm quite skinny anyway. Now, back to this. So this is a huge shift in policy from any party, because I never thought anyone would have the balls to put national service back on the menu. We got rid of it decades ago. And when I was a kid, I remember my dad saying we need to bring it back. And I remember telling him, but you didn't do it, Dad. Because when he was a kid, it wasn't a thing. And I'm genuinely intrigued. Now, the Conservatives aren't going to win. If they did, that is the funniest thing that they could ever introduce, and I hope they did it fast, just to piss people off. Because I'm not necessarily in favour of it. I'm really not. But the idea that any party had the balls to put this on the table is astonishing. And it does work in Israel, but it doesn't resonate with the British voter. Because English voters are casual, and they're also soft. I'm referring to chaos in the YouTube chat for those listening on Spotify or Rumble. I think, first of all, this is potentially a great idea, because we have seen a lot of disillusionment from younger generations now who don't know where their place is in the world. Some of whom go instead down the social media route to become influencers, others becoming terrors, others staying at home into their 30s, not because the cost of living's gone up, but because they have no direction. I say that because I have neighbours who have kids that still live at home and share a bedroom with their children, siblings, not joking, because they don't have any direction with their life.
That's
no mental disabilities, they work full time, and I'm just like, bitch, at your age, I was doing everything I could to work. You bum.
I was working at 16.
I was working a lot younger. I had paper rounds. I had multiple paper rounds. I worked from full time from 16 as well. I'm in secondary school. I worked every single evening and day that I could. I made like £5 an hour back then, because that's what it was minimum wage for under 18s. Until I left Reigate. I had a job for about 3 months, and then I was unemployed for 2 years before I decided, screw this, I'm going to university. Because they moved too much and I couldn't get a job. We moved to an area, Lowestoft, and I just couldn't get a job there. No one's fault, it just wasn't happening. And then when I obviously left, when I was at university, I worked every single day. I did a lot of web design work. I did a lot of temp shop work. I worked nights as well. And when I left unemployed, I was unemployed for another 2 years afterwards, and I went self-employed, and here we are now 12 years later, and I've never looked back. It's still going. Yes, it will, because it's got bloody December in it too. I had a premiere thing happening. Sorry to everyone that's thanks for the gifted memberships, though. I appreciate that. Now, what do you think about the idea of reintroducing national service?
Okay, I perhaps have an opinion that would be unpopular.
You're going to say it's good.
With the people who would essentially have to deal with this. I think it's a great idea. And I'll tell you why. I do agree with your assertion or your observation that we have a a population of people
Mhm.
who are essentially listlessly wandering through life.
Yeah.
Um, and 12 months is not a whole lot, honestly. Now, it might seem it that way to somebody at that age, because, of course, looking at you and I, we've been around a bit. Um,
Yes, we have. We're sluts.
and a year at this point, especially a paid year, like it honestly just sounds like just another like
Sounds like an
okay,
internship.
the country, yeah, really.
Lots of countries that are some of the biggest in the world have mandatory military service, and
Yeah,
I'll give
right,
an
2 years usually.
yeah, South Korea is a great example of that. Israel's another. I think America,
Switzerland.
you have to sign up for the draft at the very least. And I think that I do see that there is a positive potential here. It's a ballsy one because the young voters aren't going to want to go with that anyway
Oh no, they are going to fuck right off.
because they don't want to do
Especially,
anything.
well, okay, I was having this discussion with my wife actually, and we were talking about like just the general degradation of society based on like influencer culture, and
Oh God, yeah.
how fucked we have presented this new generation with like a idea that this is like a viable future, right?
Mm-hmm.
To actually say to them like, hey, yeah, like going online and doing YouTube React content, yeah, that's genuinely a job that you could totally do, and totally isn't a bigger risk and gamble than going to LA with no money and
Yeah,
trying to become an actor.
I'm with you on that.
Uh, and if you tell them, hey, why don't you do X, Y, or Z, their response usually is, well, it doesn't pay enough.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. How about we present you with the opportunity that the government will pay for you for a year, and you'll have a job, and you'll get the money, you'll get the government assistance at the time, because all that stuff will actually provide that, and okay, we'll go forward, and you get to have that. And on the back end, what actually happens is these kids get life lessons and taught and given structure in their lives that may or may not have been presented to them by their parents. It really depends.
Mhm.
But we know that it has been presented, and at the same time, UK reinvests themselves in their own national defense. And I don't know if this happens in your country, but in our country, if you do military service, you get offered what is called a Pell Grant, which is essentially a scholarship to a university.
Yeah, I've heard about the that because Magog, he served in the military, and when he came back, he had his he had something, he could do an art degree of some kind, and I kept begging him not to do it because at that time he was hot on YouTube, and
Yeah.
when he did it and he couldn't make content, his channel nosedived.
Yeah.
I didn't want to rub it in
Yeah,
his face.
just don't do it with fucking arts, and you're fine.
I understood why he was doing it though, because it was free.
Yeah.
It's what he'd earned it. But
Yeah,
I also
that was a
knew
passion.
I knew the nature of YouTube and knew that the channel he wanted to make with the land and the kingdom he wanted to do wasn't viable. And I found, and
With an art degree.
Ola, very true. Ola, you make some great points about the issues. Implementing is a separate problem. I fully understand that the skepticism is valid with what you're now typing in your nerd language. We'll call it that as opposed to vomit, because I think it's very important to acknowledge that how to implement such an idea is not as easy as simply saying you're going to do it. I do see there is a positive to this because I see how it benefits other countries, and also the fact that in other countries where you have mandatory service, the preferential treatment is very limited. Like you have, like, for example, I mentioned South Korea, yeah? One of their biggest K-pop acts in the world, BLT, whatever they're called, right?
Yes.
Thank you. That's what I said. I said BLT. That's exactly the same thing. BLT. They had to do their mandatory military service, even though they wanted to, and they couldn't get any special exemption. There was a football player that managed to avoid it. He plays for Tottenham. His name is Son, but I don't know why he managed to do that. I assume his argument was he played internationally for the South Korean football team as well. I assume that's how he got around it. But generally, in some countries, preferential treatment is not as simple. And so how you implement this idea as well, I don't know.
Thank you, MJ.
Thank you, MJ. That's right. Oh, you've done that on both my channels today, I see. You say you don't care, but you do that. Interesting. I'm interested to see how... first of all, Conservatives aren't going to win, so we can be as sceptical as we like about this, but it's not going to matter, is it? No, it's not.
No.
And I think that the complaints and concerns we have, this isn't really the one to focus on. The focus should be on the fact that we can't get to see doctors, and it doesn't matter how much money you throw at that, it's not going to change. Education system, as you all on YouTube mentioned, is underfunded. Well, it turns out that's not going to change either if you throw more money at it, because they don't have any money to throw at it. And the standards for... so for those who don't know what GCSE is, that is the highest qualification you can get in secondary school. And my grades are straight A stars because I was good. I never did anything wrong. But they've changed what it is now. Now, the standard for the education part, I've noticed, isn't necessarily worse than what it was for me. And that confuses me. Because I remember being told from others on my server who were much younger, who'd just come out of GCSEs, well, they'd just come out of college part anyway, that the standard was actually higher. But it's the examination part that's really sodding low. And they changed the grading system as well to a denominator that is lower than what I did. And I find that strange. Because for progress to really be progress, you have to stretch, you have to push. You've got to find that level, and then as generations go by, because they get smarter and smarter, they really do. We know this from the grades and the results. Obviously, there's a watering down aspect to take into account, but that's a very low amount, or it was anyway. You would expect that the standard and the quality to continue to go up. That's not the case. This is probably another reason why the Conservatives are dumb enough to think that they could push with mandatory service, because this would then incentivize them, the younger people, and this is actually another reason I think they'd do it. When you mentioned my assertion and observation, which is both, I fully agree, that there's a level of disillusionment here. That by compelling people to do something they don't want to do, with enough time committed to doing it, they will find that they have developed that patience, that understanding, that responsibility that seems to be lacking because of shit parenting.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that people are... And there are many other factors I know when it comes to certainly those children that are challenged, but...
And it may not happen every time. Granted, like, school is a really good example.
Fantastic example.
You could be, like, committed to school, and, like, you're told to do it, but that does not mean that you become the perfect student. But
I was
the
one of
turnover
worst.
rate is better.
Like, honestly, I was a terrible... Like, they did certificates in school for attendance and for good behaviour, right? I got, for 5 consecutive years, 100% attendance until one semester. I missed one day because I had a panic attack. I didn't even know what it was. It's the very first time, and I got a silver. I've still got that certificate because it pisses me off. But when it came to good behaviour, for all the semesters in secondary school, for 5 straight years, I didn't get one. Why? Because I constantly aggravated my teachers. Either because I corrected them and they didn't like it and they were too proud to admit I was right, or because I couldn't be arsed with them and decided to be a tosser because it turns out I've been a dickhead my entire life. Okay? Annoyingly, though, I think what would have helped me would have been something that centered my, let's say, lack of focus, right? Yeah. And I think that sometimes, now that was obviously 2.5 decades ago, but I still think that now we need to learn from these lessons that have harmed so many of us before and find a way to bring us all forward again. Interestingly, they want to Labour want to introduce a tax on private schools, and many parents in public schools are laughing about this because a lot of parents who have their kids go to private schools we'll have to pull them out and send them to public schools. Well, a report came out early this week that confirmed the worst possible fear is double the value that Labour thought it would be, because they thought at most it'd be maybe 100,000 students that would be sent then to public school. No, it'd be over 200,000 students, and there aren't enough spaces in UK schools to accommodate them. Meaning Labour have completely fucked it by coming up with something that would cost the taxpayer even more money, because they'd have to find more money to make more schools, and then find more teachers to have those schools work. Because more people will take... If you want to ruin it for the private educated, fine. Totally fine. Take the ladder out from underneath where your children go. That's quite all right. But you're doing it with a tax on private education, thinking that's going to solve the problem. It turns out it makes the problem worse, because now you have less money from the tax, and you've then got to accommodate for all the students that you've now completely fucked. I find that so stupid. It's beyond stupid, because they knew this as well. But you know what? I'll let that one play out, because if Labour managed to implement that, they're going to have to pay for that one. I made straight A's even in conduct, but they didn't mark it down for doodling. I doodled, so Chaos, like yourself, I doodled on everything, and I still got straight A stars. It was fine. Anyway, yes, so I thought I'd just bleat on about UK for about 36 minutes. So what's been going on in America, Trups?
Okay, so yesterday we had, after 2 days of deliberation, the jury that was dealing with Donald Trump finally came back with a verdict.
Unanimous verdict.
A unanimous verdict.
It took 2 days for that, though. 2 days for unanimous. Even though the judge did change the ruling and said that you don't have to be unanimous on it, which is interesting because there were a number of judges who appeared on MSNBC and, of course, Fox and other channels as well that said that that was illegal.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of curiosity with that kind of...
along with the lack of appeal.
Like that behavior in particular.
I mean, it could be because the judge is a lifelong donor to Democratic Party things.
Well,
I mean, it's the city of New York as well. It's New York as well, and New York has just resoundingly, unanimously voted, destroy Trump every time, as if this doesn't make them look like even more of a joke system.
True, very true.
Do continue. Sorry for the interruption.
But yeah, so basically we had a we had a bit of a how do you really explain 2 days worth of deliberation, a 34 count all guilty verdict.
Yep. Congratulations.
And yes, everyone was totally thrilled, and totally no one was upset whatsoever. Especially not me.
I saw that on Twitter, and I thought it was, and people responding saying, "I'm so happy Trump was guilty. I'm so happy." And I'm sat here like, you do realize what that? I tweeted it out, and I swear he did it on purpose. A certain level of obstinance. I tweeted out about how this just didn't look right because you allowed Cohen to take the stand and use him as a valid source. Man lied on the stand, and you've proven it before, and you're okay with this. You stopped him. You can't. They're not allowing him to appeal. You changed the rules and broke the law in the process, according to other judges. I tweeted that out, and a former creator who I swear is being like intentionally obstinate. He clearly has TDS. I'm sorry, Ed and Joy, if you hear this, but fucking hell, man. Like, you replied to other people that replied to me, and then you retweeted me. I swear I saw like 7 replies to my one tweet. I was like, for fuck's sake, man, this looks wrong. And I say it as an outsider because it just looks wrong. First of all, it took 2 days to get unanimous on all 34. Bitch, no. They just sat there, went through each one in turn, went for lunch, and came back.
Basically, they were like, is the point clear to everybody? Yes? Okay. Do we really care about the details of each individual? Not really, because they're all basically the same with minor differences.
I just want to point out here, there are people in office who have a son who has clearly committed a crime, no criminal charges. You had someone going against Trump in 2016 who clearly committed crimes, no charges. Hush money, though. Fucking hell, let's weaponize it all. Bitch, it's hush money.
Yeah, dude.
And you
dude.
didn't even prove it either.
I said when this whole thing started that it's the most bizarre concept for people to like be like after basically a person who is accused of essentially falsifying records, because the crime that they allege is essentially an error in reporting. They reported it as a legal expense as opposed to, you know, we paid the hoe off, as Dankula put it about like 2 hours ago.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah. Like that is essentially where it is. Oh, he falsified records and therefore he is guilty of election interference because the information that he withheld might have changed information that would have led to a different outcome in the election. I'm sorry.
Really
are you
wouldn't
out
have.
of your fucking mind?
I'm sorry, it would not have, because he already had the Electoral College. She did not. Like, fam, she only got the popular vote because of the cities. Oh, let's now abolish the Electoral College. Remember that video? Jesus.
Oh, of course. Dude,
this is derangement.
Well, yeah, it actually is. And so basically, yes. So all 34 counts came back, and he's guilty. Sentencing is set for July 11th.
Yeah, because he has a case in Florida. They moved it to then. Now, I saw. Has there been an appeal? The judge said no to
yes,
appeal.
I believe he is. I believe he is in the process of filing an appeal.
But I thought the judge said he couldn't.
Well, I don't think that's going to stop him.
Okay, I remember seeing that all over Twitter. So if that's true, I'd be impressed. I would assume this can go to a Supreme Court and it would be thrown out instantly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it will. His appeal will happen. It won't be resolved before the election.
Yeah, so he can still run for office, though, right?
Of course.
Yeah, because this is nonsense. These trials so far, not the first one with his apparent claims of not being as wealthy, and yet to do that, you had to make up a lie about the value of his properties.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was nonsense.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Like, fam, you fined him how much for that? But
yes,
you're just trying to run
amount.
You are trying to run him out of money so you have something to spend and donate to campaign funds.
Fun story about money.
Go on.
Immediately after the verdict came out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know what you're going to say now.
Trump's political donation website.
Yeah, I saw.
Crashed.
He got 34.8 million. That's 1 million for every single charge he was found guilty of.
Yep.
I don't know if it's any higher since, but that's what I saw this morning, and I thought that was the funny. I saw someone on Twitter say, "I just maxed out my credit card donating to Trump because I want him to have hundreds of millions, so he can use that to run for president and win again." I'm sorry, but he's one of the only people I know who could ever take something that could be considered a loss in the casual space and actually turn it into a win at the same time. Because let's face it, he can run this. And he can still... I don't know if he's going to win, but he could win. And he's got the popularity of the peasantry who are looking at this and saying, no, this is shenanigans. Straight up shenanigans. This is further proof, by the way. There was a comment he made years ago when he was debating Hillary Clinton. And others called him one of the most honest liars you'll ever come across. Because when she mentioned, when's he going to show his taxes, he said that he uses the exact same tax loopholes she uses.
Yes, her and her friends.
Exactly.
I remember that.
And that was a point about a lot of the comments he made in that debate, centered around the fact that he was trying to make the point, and I made this many times over the years, that he was genuinely trying to stick it to those career politicians who are only doing it for themselves, why they didn't close the loopholes that he benefited from, because he happily will admit he used them. Now that you can see that, now that he's left office, right? So he said when he became president, he was going to prosecute Clinton, didn't he? And he didn't do it. Now he's left office. The first thing everyone has done for the last 4 years, and what they did while he was in office, was try and find a way to get rid of him. Like the lesson also has to be learnt here, and I guess he can either be a graceful winner if he does win in November, or he can be an absolute ball bag and go after Hunter Biden and Hillary Clinton, because why not? And then perhaps Nancy Pelosi for lols.
True.
Hunter Biden should be the first one, though, because honestly, at this point, I don't know how that guy is not in trouble.
That's a great question, actually.
I do know why, but I want to say I don't because I want people to engage. It's just
the other. Well, I mean, there's plethora of issues with just the irony that Hunter Biden's laptop was a story that they actively
suppressed.
Like, yes, and there was a poll that came out directly following the election that if people had known about that poll or about the Hunter Biden laptop story in a wider sense, that he would have won.
You think so?
That was what the poll had said. If Hunter Biden's laptop story had been known about enough, that people would have, he would have won.
Well, so it's interesting now because, right, people like to criticize what Trump did during his time, and I'm sure there are points of contention, of course. But now look at what he's up against, Biden. Look at what he's done in his time, and genuinely tell me that Trump would be worse. Genuinely tell me how he would be worse as well. Because, well, uses truth really. Biden's tweets are hilarious because they're obviously written by somebody else while Biden sleeps, but they're just him constantly taking a crap on Trump. It's like, fuck me, man. Your delusion. You're meant to be. If you're like Trump actually was tweeting out a lot of his stuff. You're not, and this is just somebody suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, going nuts still. Like, fam, when Biden's in office, your economy has gone to shit. Immigration has gone through the roof. Your inflation is so bad, people are struggling. Worse than they did during Trump. So don't try me with this nonsense that you'd be better off with more years of Biden. Oh, but he's a better option. Bitch, he's ordered airstrikes in freaking, was it Yemen or something? Or Nepal? Some stupid country that he shouldn't be attacking. The man is still going for it. While he's busy sleeping, he's also giving more weapons to Ukraine. And officially giving permission, I believe, for Ukraine to attack inside Russia. Like, fam, no. This is greenlighting World War III. Sunak is doing that in this country, and I don't agree with that.
That's right.
It's absolute bollocks. I'm sorry, but nah. At least when Trump was in office, he was actually pushing for peace. And he came close to it as well. COVID kind of put pay to that. But I still think if he did it again, he could do it in 4 years. He doesn't have to worry about re-election, does he? Although he'll probably have more trials against him, and people will be like, we got to get rid of him. Let's impeach him 3 more times for good luck.
Well, they're going to do that regardless because, he's not allowed to play the game.
I think it'd be very funny if he gets impeached multiple times, because they'll have to control the House to actually push it properly and get it through. There's always a chance this time, though, he'll control the House for the first 2 years at least. And if he does for the following 2, he'll get a lot of things done.
Now, I wanted to draw your attention to a couple of the interesting posts that I found while...
go on,
so, on this, let's see here. One of my favorite was the... If Trump supporters acted like commie leftists, we would have already looted every Nike shop and burned 3 major cities to the ground by 6 a.m. this morning.
They would have done more than bloody Antifa did.
That was the Hodge twins.
The Hodge
2 conservative
twins.
black guys.
Yeah, I know who they are. I've been following for years.
What's another good one? It was Venn diagram of people who say Kyle Rittenhouse is still a murderer and the Manhattan jury's decision is final and must be respected, and it's a singular circle.
Shocker. It's a good Venn diagram. I like science.
Yeah, there's a bunch of ones that are basically like that. Let's see. Sticks, X, and Hammers that I plan on voting for the wrongfully convicted felon over the unconvicted one.
So I saw Elon Musk had tweeted, great damage was done to the public's faith in the American legal system. If a former president can be criminally convicted of such a trivial matter, motivated by politics rather than justice, then anyone is at risk of a similar fate. A retweet of
Sure.
Geiger Capital, who said the first felony conviction of a former president wasn't for Iraq or Afghanistan wars, illegal CIA coups, drone striking weddings, or spying on Americans. It's because Trump misclassified a $130,000 payment for a porn star's NDA. This is why I found Edinburgh's comments so absolutely infuriating, because he focused on he replied to so many people who were pro-Trump in my comments and retweeted me with misinformation.
So I want to point out that there are
why he's muted.
suggested.
I muted him. I can't be asked for this shit anymore.
There are suggested notes, because I may or may not be part of the community notes program now. And there are several notes that people have written in response to that post that Elon made. And of course, you don't see any of them, because basically everyone said, no, stop being a piss baby. What he said is fine. Basically, one of them is, there is no evidence that bringing of these charges by a grand jury nor the conviction by another jury was politically motivated. That's a lie. There is evidence of it. There's just no proof of it. Trump was convicted of falsifying business records to conceal other crimes, including election interference during the 2016 campaign. And those are the assertions. I will rate this no, because that is incorrect information.
Yeah.
And note not needed. Boom. Basically, like, that post in particular, a lot of people are trying to get in on. There's a good amount of scrolling to be done for this. But yeah, that's kind of where we are at when it comes to the Trump thing. In terms of the comment that the Hodge twins had made, I do think that there is a truth to it. If this were like a leftist, and this might be why we don't see prosecution of the other side very often, if that had happened, where some other, some other thing happened with, let's just say, Hunter Biden's laptop, right? If that actually ever went to trial and those issues became prevalent and relevant in today's issues, I bet you if they had found him guilty, you would have people in the streets rioting.
I honestly think Trump should pull that trigger if he wins. I think he should.
I don't know what trigger you mean, though. Like the prosecution?
Well, surely he can... No, you're right, he can't. No, maybe someone in the Republican Party can do it then, I guess. Like, push for that, because that is illegal. It should be addressed.
Well, I do think so. There's a lot of things that... And I was talking to my wife more about this. We have a genuine concern now. So, a lot of people have been using the phrase cross the Rubicon.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah. And basically, it's basically point of no return is the sentiment expressed.
It's been used a lot in Warhammer for Space Marines that cross the Rubicon Primaris.
Yes. It has something to do with, I think, ancient Rome.
It does.
I think that's where it comes from.
It does.
Okay.
I'm European, I know this.
Yes, good. Thank you. But the point is, Trump has already said once that he wanted to be a dictator on day one so that he can fix all the things that had gone wrong. Basically, well, right. But basically, he would go through everything and fix all the executive orders that Biden fucked up.
Well, are they just the ones that Biden then did executive orders on when he got in on the first day? He was over 50, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
It was a stupid amount.
But yes, Then you have this situation, and this situation is a step really far. It's definitely a step that uh, the uninitiated and maybe the apolitical would look at and go, "Hmm, something about this feels wrong," right? Well, unfortunately, a potential that they have just created, and this goes along with the whole prosecution of Hunter Biden, is he already said he was going to do like executive orders. He already said he was going to seek vengeance if he got reelected.
Yeah.
Why the fuck would you want to create the villain even more? Like, if they are truly afraid of this man, like truly afraid that this man is going to do whatever, why would you keep pushing? Why wouldn't you try and become amenable to somebody who, if he says I'm seeking vengeance, why would you want to get on his bad side? This doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. You're right.
But this is why I don't believe that they are actually afraid of Donald Trump, but they should be now.
I think if he wins, they have a lot to be worried about because I can see him controlling the House from the offset. I can't see Biden winning it back if he wins somehow. I think there's too many because he came in under the guise of unity and harmony working together. And the very first thing he did was shit on everyone that disagreed with him.
Something still does today.
Yeah, something odd enough he was doing during the campaign originally. Remember, if you don't vote, if you're black and you don't vote Democrat, you're not really black.
If you have a question about whether you're for me or for Trump, then you ain't black.
That's it. And it's astonishing. If you're going to antagonize and say that Hornet's Nest wins, you're kind of going to get... It's a purchase.
You kind of deserve it.
It's making a purchase. Is there a cat by the window? There is. I'll get a cat in one moment. You carry on.
Oh, yes. But where he was going with that is you basically kick the Hornet's Nest, and at that point you might kind of deserve it. Because if you had the audacity to actually play this game, knowing full well what the fire could bring, then this is one of those things that you've made your bed, now lie in it.
Yeah, it's a purchase. It's a wrestling term. You make a purchase, and the purchase in this case is the multiple convictions that are clearly politically motivated, and they have to be at this point. There's too many shenanigans involved for it to be anything other than that. You could argue, it's just, it's not a correlation. It's just, consequence. Sure, I'm sure there's some aspect of that too, but let's not forget here, it was a misfiling, and that's all it was in this case. And for the other one to stick, you had to downgrade his property values. You can argue all the purchase was all these trials and impeachments, everything else, the constant public chastising of somebody you wouldn't give a voice to, who has gotten his voice back. The receipt will come if he chooses to use it. If he doesn't, by the way, that is an even greater receipt, because he could spend the next if Trump wins, he could spend the next 4 years not saying a word about it, about any of them. He could do that but that would make him look more professional than the very people who accused him of unprofessionalism in his first 4 years. So I personally would like to, if he did win, I would like to see him do nothing to them. Watch them squirm.
So, fun story. You know how everyone has been talking about, like, all this rule of law bullshit along this line, right? They keep talking about, the rule of law and the system worked to this time.
The snort fest, gotcha.
Yeah. I want to point out that MSNBC has been absolutely filleting the judge on air constantly. He spoke with such dignity, and it was almost miraculous. Might be too large of a word, but
so the judge got a blowy. Gotcha.
I mean, basically, just with the amount of accolades, right? And hilariously, Judge Eileen Cannon, who's the judge overseeing the Florida documents case.
Yeah.
came out and said Donald Trump is innocent and is being politically persecuted.
They're going to try and get her thrown out from being over that.
Yeah.
Aren't
And not only that, but Jack Smith, special counsel Jack Smith, is making comments against Eileen Cannon.
they?
So notice, right, this wonderful difference in how they, believe in the law. Oh, if it works for me on my side, such dignity and amazing, transcendent, miraculous, this whole thing. Judge Eileen Cannon goes, I think this is bullshit. I'll get her fired. Evil hissing sounds, right? It's so painfully partisan that I feel as if I'm watching a skit on TV or like on SNL,
yeah, SNL.
or like Red versus Blue.
Well, it's got to be SNL because
we hate them because they're blue.
It's not funny, so it has to be SNL.
That's true.
We have run out of time, by the way. I just realised.
Oh yes, we have.
So we're gonna have to vanish. Are we here next week, Trups?
No, we are not.
Very well. 2 weeks' time, everyone. Maybe. I don't know. Very well. Well, thank you for being here, guys. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the memberships. We appreciate that especially. And we hope to see you in a couple of weeks. There'll be next week, research stream. So if you're interested in listening to me watch more Amber content, because non-tent is hilarious, join us. Oh, myself anyway. Hopefully my internet will be fixed by then. I've got a new Ethernet cable arriving tomorrow. We'll see you soon. Say good night, Trups.
Good night, Trups.
Good night.